Today's topic is a hot one. There's some big rumors about upcoming changes on Spotify related to royalty compensation and fraud prevention. So in this video, I want to talk about all of them. The good, the bad, and the ugly. There's a lot of noise out there about Spotify apparently planning to direct $1 billion in royalty payments to what they call legitimate artists. And they're planning to do this by fixing 3 big holes that they currently see draining what's called the royalty pool. Now, in order to dive into this, it's important to understand how the royalty pool works. When music fans sign up for Spotify and either pay for their premium subscription or generate revenue for Spotify by seeing or listening to ads on free accounts, that money doesn't go directly to the artists, okay? Contrary to what many people believe when hearing things such as, Spotify pays 0.3 pennies per stream, Spotify does not actually pay artists a fixed amount of money per stream. Instead, all that money that Spotify collects goes into a big bucket first. Then Spotify takes a cut of the top to run its business. I believe that's about 30%. And then the remaining 70%, that's what's called the royalty pool. Basically just the remaining pile of money to compensate the artists on Spotify. Now, in order to figure out who gets how much, Spotify totals up all the streams that happen on Spotify, all songs, all artists, and then everyone gets paid based on their share of streams. So if one artist has 100,000 streams and another artist has 1 million streams, then you'd assume that the artist with 1 million streams gets paid about 10 times the amount as the artist having 100,000 streams, because their share of streams is 10 times as much. Now, this is of course simplified because there are some differences between Spotify premium subscribers and ad-supported subscribers. There are also differences between countries, but basically this is how it works. And so what it means is that for the royalties you get from Spotify, it doesn't matter what music your listeners actually listen to. All that matters is what share of streams you got across all of Spotify. So with this cleared up, there are 3 pretty significant shifts rumored to be coming, so let's break them down. Number 1, Spotify will apparently set up a new rule that each track needs a minimum number of streams per year before it can earn any royalties. Number 2, Spotify may financially penalize distributors and labels when there's fraudulent activity spotted on their music. And 3, for noise track, meaning tracks that aren't typical music but something like white noise, the sound of rainfall, ocean waves, or nature sounds, Spotify plans to increase the minimum play time to count as a stream to more than the current 30 seconds, making it potentially harder for those noise tracks to earn royalties. Now, let me share my thoughts on all of this because I see it a little differently from the many negative comments popping up everywhere. And here's why. Overall, I'm a fan of Spotify because I've received a lot of free exposure from Spotify. If I look at my Spotify for artists for the past 28 days, I can see that my music promotion generates about 1,500 streams per day, but Spotify gives me an extra 3,500 streams per day entirely for free. And these are just coming through algorithmic playlists, Spotify radio, and by allowing fans to save my music to their libraries. But let's dive deeper into each change. So first, the minimum annual stream count. There's a lot of chatter out there. According to Music Business Worldwide, sources close to Spotify have now confirmed that from Q1 2024, songs will have to hit 1,000 streams per year before they start generating royalties. That would mean that the first 1,000 streams of any of our songs on Spotify won't earn royalties anymore. Now, Spotify argues that they are doing this because they see a lot of royalty revenue being destroyed with micropayments to tracks with less than 1,000 streams per year. Now, what do they mean here? A challenge with royalty earnings that are just a few pennies or dollars is that it's nearly always impractical to pay them out. And that has to do with the cost of processing payments on the internet. Credit card transactions commonly have a fixed cost of 30 cents per transaction, plus then a percentage of the amount being transferred. PayPal is the same. Banks have wire transfer fees that are often several dollars. Even cryptocurrency transactions have gas fees. So if you would generate less than 1,000 streams per year, so let's call that 80 streams per month, and if you got full royalties on those 80 streams of about 24 cents, then it's still very likely that you would not be able to enjoy the benefits of your money because it would cost more money to send you those pennies than they are actually worth. That's a problem, right? Now, I know that this can add up to bigger amounts over time, and of course, if you have multiple tracks, but that's what Spotify argues. So rather than handing those funds over to the distributors and letting them eventually own it because it goes unclaimed, Spotify wants to redistribute those funds to legitimate artists who generate more than the minimum number of streams per year. Is that fair? I don't know. Do I think artists should get paid for their streams? Absolutely. However, I've also come to view music as more of a marketing medium in today's digital music industry. We're using our songs to promote ourselves as artists, but what we really sell are other products and services like shows, merchandise, songwriting, playlist curating, maybe mixing and mastering or other things and services. I've sold a bunch of sample packs and t-shirts just off of my music and my merch store link that I have on Spotify, for example. I have about 40 songs on Spotify right now, and with the new rules, that would mean I'm losing royalties on 40,000 streams. At the current average rate of 0.3 cents, that's about $120 in royalties. Now, wouldn't it be nice to have that money and put back into promotion? Yes, it definitely would. But here's what I have to give Spotify credit for. As I've shown you before, about 30% of all my streams come from my music promotion with Facebook and Instagram ads, which is all I do to promote my music. But that means about 70% of all my streams come from Spotify, from algorithmic playlists, from Spotify radio, from saved songs, from within the ecosystem Spotify has created for music. So that means I'm getting hundreds of thousands of streams from Spotify for free every year. Does losing 40,000 streams from royalties suck? Yes, of course. But the net benefit from having music supported by Spotify seems so much bigger. And Spotify says that they are adding those royalties they save from songs with under 1,000 streams. They add this back into the royalty pool. So that means the pool should be bigger and the overall number of streams should go down, which in effect would mean that the average dollar amount per stream would go up. So while we would have less streams eligible to earn royalties after those 1,000 get deducted, that payout per stream should go up. Now, I bet that if you're watching this video, which means you are actively working on music promotion, you are very, very likely an artist who gets more than 1,000 streams per year on your songs. And so even if I agree with the statement that all artists should get paid for their streams, which I do, I also understand that many of these micro royalty amounts don't actually reach these artists. And so for those above the minimum number of streams, it increases the royalty pool. Moving on to number 2, the penalties for fraudulent activity. As an artist who's working hard and constantly on building a real fan base and audience, I really like the sound of it. To me, it's the lack of clarity that's concerning. Spotify hasn't actually shared how they will detect violations, and there's probably a reason for that. They don't want labels and distributors to game the system. But what about the artists? What if someone else uses a bad playlist promo campaign to push your music, for example? If they break the rules, how will Spotify determine it wasn't you? So what's the safeguard for artists on this? I really think we need more information on that. And as for the short noise tracks, that stuff makes me smile because I talked about it in so many of my Spotify courses. Those who've been making money by breaking down long soundscapes into 30-second snippets were just being smart, all right? They played by the rules. But I bet most of these tracks aren't from major labels, they're from independent creators. And who does Spotify need more than anyone else? The major labels and the major artists. That's who most fans are there to listen to. And so it's interesting to note that the share of Spotify's royalty pool going to major record companies has actually gone down over the past years. That means independent artists and labels are getting more representation on the platform. So maybe Spotify is looking for ways to keep the major labels happy by directing more money their way. That may not seem right, But as a publicly traded company, Spotify's ultimate goal has to be to generate profits for its shareholders. Now, a last point I want to share here is this, and this is a big one. There's an entirely different solution that could solve all of these issues, and that's switching Spotify from a stream-centric to an artist-centric royalty model. In an artist-centric royalty model, artists would be paid on the actual listening habits of their fans. So picture this, right? If you have a friend or someone in your family who signed up for Spotify and only listen to your music, only your music, nothing else, then you would expect that you should get all of the royalties from this listener, right? They didn't listen to any other music, just you, so you shouldn't have to split it with anybody. That's not how Spotify's royalty model works today. Today, nearly all of the money your friends or family paid to Spotify for their premium subscription or the ads they consumed goes to the Taylor Swifts, the Drakes, the Bad Bunnies, and the other major label artists on Spotify, because they have more streams than you do. Even if your fans never even listen to them. That, to me, is the real problem. So in an artist-centric royalty model, you would get paid purely based on the listening habits of your fans. And only those artists the fan listened to would get paid from their subscription money to Spotify. And let me tell you why I think that this would solve everything. First, this would mean that 1,000 streams for one artist with a small but die-hard fan base could easily be worth way more than 10,000 streams for another artist with a broad audience, eliminating the problems with microtransactions. Second, fraudulent activity like using bots would become completely pointless, as it wouldn't drain the royalty pool, right? Artists using bots would still only get the money paid by their bot accounts. And third, those non-music noise tracks would earn from their own listeners. So again, most artists wouldn't experience any drain on royalties from it. That sounds just great, doesn't it? Well, but sadly, here's why I predict this will never happen. Who benefits the most from the current system? The major labels and the biggest artists that hold the biggest share of streams. They would lose out big time under an artist-centric model. But since Spotify needs their music to be licensed to them and available on Spotify, they would never allow it. So what does all of this mean for us? If you are engaged and actively promoting your music, chances are you are getting way more than 1,000 streams per year on your songs. In this case, you could benefit from a larger royalty pool, and the more streams you get, the bigger the upside. And since this news from Spotify is dropping now, it gives us time to prepare and make sure that our music is getting enough exposure to crush those new streaming thresholds. So let's continue to grow our music and claim our share of the royalty pool. We're becoming harder to ignore, and the more we grow, the more we matter. That's my call to action, and I'd love to keep the conversation going in the comments below. I want to hear from you. Do you agree with my thoughts? Do you think about it differently? It'd be amazing to blow up the comments below with your opinion. So don't hold back, and I see you down there in the comments. And if you're looking for a really easy way to move the needle and get more listeners, fans, and streams for your music on Spotify, then check out this here. Want to get your music heard on Spotify with AI? I just launched a brand new video training program called the Spotify Growth Switch, where I show you how to start growing real listeners, real fans, and real streams on Spotify in less than 10 minutes using software and AI. I've used the Spotify Growth Switch system to now grow my music to over 7 million streams and tens of thousands of monthly listeners on Spotify. This works for any music genre. It gets you real fans and listeners super fast, and it's extremely easy to set up, literally just like flipping a spotlight switch for your music. Despite using AI, you don't need to know nothing about tech stuff in order to be successful with this. I've had the tremendous privilege of helping multiple tens of thousands of music artists grow their music on Spotify, many of which have grown to much larger numbers, lots more listeners, lots more streams than I have using the systems that I've taught. Makes me so proud of their success. And so if you want to get more real listeners, real fans, and real streams for your music fast using state-of-the-art software and AI, then click the link below this video and check out the Spotify Growth Switch. I can't wait to help you grow your music on Spotify, and I look forward to seeing you on the inside.